My selfish parents gave my daughter a broken $5 toy for Christmas and said, "You're not the favorite. The real gifts are for your cousins." My daughter started crying. Everyone snickered, even my sister's kids. But 20 minutes later the house went quiet when I ruined Christmas for my daughter. That's the part one keep replaying. Not what they did. Not even what they said. But the fact that I brought her there, knowing exactly what kind of people they are. That's on me. I should have never walked back into that house. It's not like this was new. My parents have always made it painfully clear who their real family is. My sister, her kids, my brother when he keeps his mouth shut. I was just the one who did the work. Showed up early. Helped at the business. Covered when they were too lazy to handle things themselves. But when it came to love, respect, even basic decency, I was last in line. And Lily? She was never in line to begin with. Still, I told myself they were getting older. That maybe this year they'd try harder. That maybe they'd realize they've missed 6 birthdays in a row and that giving a child some attention on Christmas wouldn't kill them. I told Lily we were going to Nana and Grandpa's. He got excited. She even picked out a dress 2 days early and asked if she could bring the photo she'd printed of her and my dad from last summer. The one where he looks like he's actually smiling. It was warm that day. He let her hold the fishing rod. She still talks about it. So we showed up Christmas morning, gift in hand, and I knew within 10 seconds it was a mistake. The house was too perfect. My mom was too smiley. My sister was already filming everything on her phone. Her twins sitting in front of the mountain of gifts, screaming and laughing like it was a game show. No one said anything to Lily. Not hello. Not Merry Christmas. She sat next to me on the edge of the couch, clutching her little wrapped photo. She waited. I waited. My brother came in a little late, gave me a look that said, "You already regret being here, don't you?" Then came the gifts. The cousins got everything. We're talking brand new iPads, bikes, sneakers, personalized art kits and jewelry. Even my sister's dog got a stocking filled with treats and toys. Lily kept watching, polite as always. And I hated myself for letting her hope. Finally, my mom reached under the tree and pulled out a crumpled, half-ripped package. She looked confused, like she didn't even remember wrapping it. She handed it to Lily without a word. Inside was a cheap plastic horse. One leg was broken clean off. There were scratches on the side and someone had scribbled on it with permanent marker. It looked like it had come from the bottom of a dirty toy bin at a garage sale. Lily stared at it. She didn't say a word. My dad, already sipping something strong, chuckled and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "She's not the favorite. The real gifts are for your cousins." And that was it. Everyone laughed. Even the kids. My sister smirked like she was enjoying it. My mother didn't blink. Just moved on to handing out more gifts to the real grandkids. Lily's eyes filled up. She tried to hold it in but she couldn't. She buried her face in her hands and started to cry. I sat frozen for a second, not because I didn't care but because I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Rage. Shame. And a sharp, rising clarity. My brother stood up. Told them this was disgusting. Told them they were humiliating a child. Told them they were broken. My dad told him to shut up. My sister rolled her eyes. I took Lily to the hallway. She kept asking if maybe they gave her the wrong gift by mistake. Maybe they had something else for her in the other room. I said, "No, honey. That's it." She cried harder. And I decided right there I was done pretending this was a family. 20 minutes later the laughter died down. My sister was too busy uploading photos. My mom was serving cake. And I walked back in calm. I picked up the 2 expensive, thoughtful gifts I had brought for my parents and placed them gently back into my bag. My dad noticed first. Asked what I was doing. I looked at all of them. Even the kids now staring at me like something had shifted. And I said, "I hope you enjoyed your little show. Because I have a Christmas gift of my own. And this one you won't forget." You could hear a pin drop when I said it. "I won't be working for you anymore." At first they thought it was a joke. My dad chuckled like I was putting on some dramatic little show. My mom looked at me with her patronizing therapist face. The one she uses when she thinks someone's having a meltdown. My sister rolled her eyes, whispered something to her husband, and picked up another slice of pie like nothing important was happening. Then I told them it was real. That I'd been quietly building something over the past year. Planning, learning, networking. That the investor I'd been meeting with had finalized everything last week. That I was launching a business. My own. And not just in some distant little side lane. No, right in their lane. Direct competition. And not small either. Bigger than what they built. Better model. Cleaner structure. None of the sketchy deals. None of the nepotism. And definitely none of the abuse they called tough love. I'd been taking notes all these years while they thought I was just their overworked safety net. My dad stopped smiling. He stood up and asked me what the hell I was talking about. Said I didn't know what I was getting into. Said I didn't have what it took. My mom went pale. She asked why I'd do this to them. What kind of daughter burns her family down? I told her it was simple. You didn't treat me like a daughter. And you sure as hell didn't treat Lily like a granddaughter. I'm not burning down my family. I'm walking away from the fire you've been lighting for years. That's when my sister snapped. Said I was being selfish. That this was jealousy, plain and simple. That just because her kids were more successful, I didn't have to try to destroy everything. More successful? They're 8. They get iPads for existing. Lily brings a handmade photo frame and gets humiliated in front of the whole family, and I'm the jealous one? My brother finally spoke up. He told them to stop talking. Told them they were blind. That I had every right to do what I was doing. That this wasn't sudden, it was overdue. Then he picked up Lily, who had wandered into the hallway, still clutching the broken plastic horse. She was trying not to cry again, just listening from behind the corner. He told her they were going upstairs to make hot chocolate and play a game. That it would be a better Christmas up there. He looked at me before he left the room and said, "You're not wrong for doing this. You should have done it years ago." Downstairs my parents lost it. My dad said I was ungrateful. That I was turning my back on everything they built for me. I reminded him I built it. Every extra hour. Every late night call. Every problem they dumped on me because they didn't have the time. I told them they only liked me when I stayed quiet and useful. That the second I asked for anything, time off, flexibility, a raise, I became a burden. They tried to twist it, of course. Told me they were just being hard on me because they believed in me. Told me this was all for my own good. I asked them if giving my daughter a broken $5 toy was for her good too. My sister jumped in again, raising her voice, saying I was being vindictive, that I'd regret this. He called me a backstabber. I told her I didn't stab anyone. I just stopped handing them the knife every year and watching them use it on me and my kid. And then my mom cried. Said this was the worst Christmas ever. Said I ruined everything. She looked like she expected me to apologize. Instead, I just said, I hope you enjoyed the last Christmas where I showed up pretending we were still a family. Because next year, you won't even know where we are. And I meant it. I went upstairs to get Lily. She was sitting with my brother's kids, laughing for the first time all day. I thanked him quietly. He said nothing back. Just nodded. That was enough. I packed our coats, grabbed our bag, walked out without saying goodbye. We didn't need their presents. I had something bigger. I had freedom. Lily fell asleep before we even got out of my parents' neighborhood, her head leaning against the window, clutching the stuffed bunny my brother's daughter had quietly handed her upstairs. She didn't cry anymore. But there was something worse in her face, silence. That kind of quiet that only shows up when something breaks for the first time and the person doesn't know how to fix it. And I hated them for putting that in her. I carried her up to bed when we got home. She never woke up. I sat at the edge of her bed for a while thinking about how I let them do this to her. I could have walked away years ago. I should have. But I kept clinging to the idea that they were family and family meant something. That night I wrote the resignation email. It wasn't emotional. No long dramatic monologue. Just facts. I told them I would no longer be working at the business. That I wasn't their backup plan anymore. That I would not be answering late night calls, covering sloppy errors, or picking up the pieces of their carelessness. Then I hit send. I expected some kind of explosion. But the first few days were just dead quiet. Not even a received reply. Like they thought ignoring me would undo everything. A week later the first message came. My mom acting like nothing happened. Asking if Lily had enjoyed her cute little horse. Said she thought it was funny and didn't mean anything by it. I didn't reply. My silence must have annoyed them because the next message came from my dad. You're overreacting. You'll regret this. You're not thinking straight. No surprise there. But the real surprise was how I felt reading it. Nothing. Not anger. Not hurt. Just confirmation that I'd made the right decision. I poured myself into the business. The investor I partnered with. She wasn't just money. She believed in what I wanted to build. Something ethical, fresh, sustainable. She even introduced me to 2 other former execs who were looking to collaborate. Within 3 weeks I had an office space, a name, a logo, and 3 team members. All people who had left my parents' company over the years because they were tired of the games. The first 5 clients signed with us by mid-January. 2 of them were former clients of my parents. I didn't approach them. I didn't steal anything. They came on their own. One of them even said, I always figured you were the engine behind everything anyway. You were the only one who gave a damn. By then my phone had gone strangely quiet. No texts from my sister. No guilt-ridden emails from my mom. Not even snide remarks from my dad. But I started noticing other things. Subtle things. My sister's social media posts shifted. At first, they were their usual smug updates. Brunches, birthday parties, her twins thriving. Then she started sharing things about betrayal, loyalty, family drama. Those vague, attention-begging quotes that don't mention anyone by name but scream desperation. I didn't engage. Then in late January, Lily asked me something I wasn't ready for. She said, "Do you think Nana and Grandpa forgot I exist?" I asked her why she thought that. She said, "Because if they remembered me, they wouldn't laugh when I'm sad." I told her no, they didn't forget her. But sometimes, people only know how to love the version of someone that makes them feel powerful. And kids like her with big hearts and soft voices get ignored when the people around them only care about control. She didn't fully understand it. But she nodded, then asked if she could get the pink music box we saw at the mall. The one with the tiny ballerina that twirled when you opened it. Her cousins had gotten the same one from my parents for Christmas. I bought it the next morning. And I told her it was from Nana and Grandpa. Because I couldn't stand the idea of her believing she wasn't worthy of being thought of. By early February, my business was thriving. We doubled our client list. I had weekly check-ins with my team. People were calling us, seeking us out. Even a few names I recognized from my parents' inner circle were asking questions. Then on a Tuesday I got the card. A white envelope with gold trim. No return address, but I knew the handwriting instantly. Inside was a formal invitation. A small family reunion dinner at my parents' house. Just the immediate family. February 10th. Casual. Dinner. Reconnect. There was no apology. No mention of what happened. No explanation. Just fake warmth and an invitation to come back. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I was tempted, but because I finally realized what it was. They weren't reaching out because they missed me. They were reaching out because they needed me. The envelope sat on the kitchen counter for a few days, next to Lily's crayons and a half-eaten apple. I'd glance at it, walk past it, pretend I wasn't curious. But I was. Not because I hoped they'd changed, I knew better. But because I wanted to see what their next move was. It was a formal invitation to a small family dinner. Handwritten. Let's reconnect. Just the immediate family. Like old times. It was laughable. But then my brother called. He'd gotten one too. He said he wasn't planning on going either, until he had a strange interaction with someone from our parents' office. Apparently their longest-standing client had quietly ended their contract 2 weeks ago. No announcement. Just gone. That same client had called me last Friday. I told my brother I'd think about it. And then without telling anyone, I showed up. It was February 10th. Windy, cold, and weirdly quiet on their street. I walked in through the front door like I used to back when I was still playing the role. My mother's face was a mix of surprise and calculation. She was dressed like she'd been waiting for an investor, not a daughter. My father was already seated at the dining room table, leaning back with a drink like this was just another Sunday evening. My sister looked annoyed to see me, her third glass of wine already sitting beside her untouched plate. I didn't bring Lily. No way I was letting her near that house again. They didn't ask where she was. They made small talk for almost 30 minutes. My dad talked about market shifts. My mom bragged about how her friends still looked to them for guidance. My sister kept showing off pictures of her kids and pretending her marriage wasn't falling apart in real time. Then the tone shifted. My dad cleared his throat and launched into a carefully rehearsed speech. Said they'd been reflecting. Said they saw now how much I'd contributed. That they wanted to fix things, really fix them. He looked me in the eye and said they were offering me a partnership. Equal stake. Full title. Shared control. All I had to do was come back. My mom jumped in with the emotional appeal. Said they missed me. Missed Lily. That family didn't always get things right, but they were trying. My sister didn't say much. Just watched me with that sour smirk like she was waiting for me to beg. I didn't. Asked why. Why no? After years of dismissing me. After humiliating my daughter. After ignoring my voice in the business, treating me like staff with a shared last name? They danced around it, of course. My dad said something about timing. My mom said something about healing. So I gave them the truth. Because your biggest clients are leaving. Because your project manager joined my company last week and you didn't even realize. Because your reputation is slipping and you think I'm your life raft. My sister scoffed. Said I was delusional. So I pulled out an envelope from my bag. Just like the one they had sent me. I slid it across the table toward my dad. He opened it thinking it was a contract. It was a buyout offer. Not for me to join them. For them to sell everything. A clean exit. They could retire. Tell the world it was planned. Save their pride. And walk away before their brand collapsed completely. My dad's face went red. My mom froze. My sister knocked over her wine glass. I told them the offer was real, backed by one of my investors, already reviewed by 2 of their former clients who'd agreed to transition if the deal went through. They started talking over each other. My dad said I was trying to erase them. My mom called it betrayal. My sister just stared at me like she didn't know me. Then my brother walked in. He'd been in the kitchen the whole time, listening, watching. He sat down across from me and said calmly, "I think she's offering you mercy." No one spoke after that. I stood up, thanked them for dinner, and told them they had 1 week to consider the offer. After that, I'd stop being generous. My brother walked me out to the car. On the way, he asked if I really meant it. Would I actually take over the entire company? I said yes, but only because they left me no other choice. By Monday, the silence had cracked. The first sign of pressure came early, a missed call from my dad just after 8 a.m. No voicemail. Classic him. Then around noon, my mom sent a text that sounded like an afterthought. "Just thinking about you. Maybe we could have a coffee this week, just the 2 of us? Doesn't have to be about the business." I didn't reply. That night, my sister posted a photo from their office, captioned, "Some people run from real responsibility." Subtle, sure, but not subtle enough. I knew what was happening. They weren't panicking yet, but the ground was starting to shift under them. I could almost hear the whispered conversations behind closed doors, the quick glances in meetings, the realization that I hadn't been bluffing. By Tuesday, I got my confirmation. A former supplier forwarded me an email, one my father had sent, asking if they'd heard anything about my operation, how stable it was, if I was reliable. He'd added a charming line at the end, "Just trying to protect old relationships from being dragged into chaos." I didn't respond. I just forwarded it to my lawyer and moved on with my day. Wednesday came with an even more desperate move. My mom showed up at my office unannounced. I got a message from my assistant that read, "Your mother's here. She's asking for 5 minutes and says it's urgent." I met her in the lobby. She had that forced warmth in her eyes that usually came right before she tried to guilt me into something. She reached for my hand like we were 2 people reconnecting after years apart, not 2 people on opposite sides of a war. She said they'd been thinking that maybe they all handled Christmas wrong, that maybe this offer had come too late and that they were willing to adjust it. I told her we could talk when lawyers were present, in writing, and not in front of my staff. She blinked like the words didn't quite register. Then she said, "Anna, what happened to you?" I smiled and said, "I started treating myself the way I always treated all of you." She left without another word. Thursday, my sister lost it. She posted a long, cryptic rant online about fake women who pretend to be family until they get a little money and think they're CEOs. It was followed by 5 hashtags, one of which was just #pathetic. But that wasn't the surprising part. The surprising part was the comment from one of their former partners. A quiet, simple sentence. "Actually, Anna was always the one we trusted." And then Friday happened. My investor forwarded me a voicemail she'd received from my father. A full minute of him pretending to be calm while trying to sabotage me. He told her I was emotionally unstable, that I had a habit of burning bridges, that I wasn't ready to lead anything, let alone a company. She didn't just send it to me, she transcribed it and added a note. "He sounds scared. That usually means you're doing something right." Then she sent me a small bouquet of flowers and a bottle of wine. The card read, "Pressure makes diamonds. And your father just handed you a shovel." Saturday came quietly. No messages. No calls. No sudden apology. Just an email. Sent at 11:57 p.m. 3 minutes before the deadline. Subject, "We're not ready to sell." It was 2 paragraphs long. They said they'd talked things over and decided to continue running the business themselves. They said they believed in legacy, that the company deserved to stay in the family, and that they were open to a trial partnership with me, if I was willing to earn their trust again. I sat there and read it twice, not because I was surprised but because I had expected better manipulation. They still thought I needed them. Sunday morning I called my brother. Told him they passed on the offer. He asked me if I was okay with that. I told him I'd already let go of the idea of being part of their legacy. He was quiet for a second, then said something I didn't expect. He wanted out too. He'd spent years trying to keep things balanced, trying to protect me and hold the family together, but it had cost him more than he realized. He was tired of being their peacemaker. Tired of working for people who used family as a shield for every bad decision they made. I told him I had space for him on my team. He said send the paperwork. That afternoon I onboarded him as a consultant. By Wednesday he'd handed in his resignation. I didn't feel victorious. This wasn't about winning. But as I watched my brother walk into my office that Friday, coffee in one hand, Lily's pink lunchbox in the other because he offered to drop it off at her school, I realized something else. We weren't just walking away from them. We were starting something better. March arrived without drama. No surprise calls. No staged family interventions. Just clean, uninterrupted days. Our office was getting busier. We were onboarding a new client nearly every week. My brother was thriving in his new role. Not just supporting operations but building systems we never had time for when we were drowning in our parents' mess. Here's someone new now. Someone lighter. He told me one afternoon as we ate lunch on the office balcony that it felt like he'd been underwater for years and finally remembered what air felt like. He said, "It's not just the work. It's not hearing my phone ring and wondering if it's dad about to yell or mom about to cry." I knew exactly what he meant. Lily was doing better too. She'd started humming again while drawing. She wasn't asking about my parents as much. Her drawings didn't have broken hearts in the corners anymore. Then like clockwork the first message came. It was from my mom. A long careful email. She said she'd been thinking a lot and wanted to talk woman to woman. She said they missed Lily and hoped I could see that families have rough seasons, that perhaps we were all too emotional over Christmas. She admitted the business was facing a challenging season, and she wanted to talk about what working together again could look like. I read it twice. Not because I was confused, but because I was so detached it felt like I was reading someone else's story. 3 days later my dad called. I let it go to voicemail. No message. The day after that I received flowers at the office. No name, just a note that said, "Let's fix this before it's too late." I had them thrown out before they hit my desk. They weren't looking for family. They were looking for rescue. I didn't respond. That Friday my sister sent a text that only said, "You won. Happy now." I didn't reply to her either. Because this was never about winning. It was about freedom. It was about putting my daughter in a world where she didn't have to work for the love she deserved. Where she wouldn't be laughed at by people who claimed to love her. Where she didn't grow up watching her mother shrink herself to keep the peace. The next week my brother and I finalized a deal with a major client. One that had been a cornerstone of our parents' business for years. We hadn't approached them. They'd reached out to us. When I told my investor she just smiled and said, "Legacy has nothing on momentum." That weekend I blocked all of them. Phone. Social media. Every trace of access they had to me was gone. Not because I was angry, that had faded. Not because I wanted revenge, I already had what mattered. I blocked them because I was done wasting energy explaining my decision to people who only wanted me when they were sinking. Lily never asked about them after that. Until one quiet Tuesday night in April. She was working on a school project about families. Drawing little paper cutouts of people at the dinner table. She had me, her uncle, and even our receptionist included. She paused, stared at her paper for a moment and asked, "Do you think Nana and Grandpa will ever be nicer?" I didn't lie. I said, "Maybe. But it's not your job to wait for them to figure it out." She nodded and added her stuffed bunny to the drawing. We finished the project, made hot cocoa and danced in the living room like we used to before everything got complicated. That night when I tucked her in she whispered, "Our family's better now." And she was right. Not because it was bigger. Not because it was louder, but because it was finally ours. We didn't just survive what they did to us. We built something better in spite of it. And for the first time in years I didn't feel like I needed closure. Because walking away wasn't an ending. It was the start.